Negroes, do your duty.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.
Negroes, do your duty. Negroes, do your duty. Negroes, do your duty. Negroes, do your duty. Negroes, do your duty.
I feel the freedom of black folks. It's coming. We're going to get it. We fought every one of your damn lousy wars, lady, and you give us nothing. Now the war is going to be here, but we're going to be free. Now you kill you want to, but we kill too.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I might have not been audible there. So let me just start that over again. Sorry for the dead air. Appreciate everybody that's checking this out on YouTube on the Villager on Deck channel. Appreciate you if you are checking this out on Freedman Media. I'm going to say I appreciate it because you're there, but you need to be over on the Villager on Deck channel. So when we do stop really streaming a lot of live material over there, get on over to the Villager on Deck channel, subscribe to that channel. If you are on Facebook and you're checking it out from the Villager on Deck page, I appreciate that. If you're still looking at it through the government name, that just means you have never moved. So I get that. I totally get it. But you're going to have to, because I'm going to stop streaming to my government page soon here. I just haven't felt compelled to this week because I'm blocked. So I can't share videos. So I'm at the mercy of other people sharing the videos, and I don't have very many people to do that. So I do rely on certain few people to probably just try to get them out when they can. Hopefully Free was able to get a couple of the stream links into some of the local pages, because this is locally angled. I am the Villager on Deck, and it's because I'm a villager, and it's because I'm on deck. But I'm going to talk locally tonight. I'm going to stay local with it tonight. Other than what I got a little house cleaning to do right before I get started with the message. But this stream is basically for people that have come at me about why I don't support Jerry Clayton. And Jerry Clayton is currently the sheriff, okay, of the county that I live in, which is Washtenaw County in Michigan. Now, they asked me about that, but then it's also fast forwarding to the person who works directly underneath him. His title is Community Engagement Officer, and we're going to get into all that in a minute. But he works much closer to the sheriff than many people know. I mean, I have a little bit of an intel just to know how close he actually is with the sheriff. And, you know, it's one of those things, you watch my back, I'll watch yours type of relationships. And we're really going to get into that tonight, because I want to start to look at why does this male, and I use the term male specifically, y'all know my streams, y'all know why I don't call certain people men. I will call them males, but I want to know, why does this male want to be sheriff? And this male is named Derrick Jackson. And he's been around the community for many, 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 many years. He's only a few years younger than me, I guess, from what I hear. And he's done a lot. He's done a lot. But more so, he's said a lot. And many of the things that he has said are not true. And many of the things that he's done have not been good. I'm not here just to stress on all of the bad things that he has done, but I want to bring things into context, because, for one, I don't like him as an individual. So I want to get that out early so people don't think that it's personal. I just don't like him as an individual, as a human being, but it doesn't have anything to do with what I'm going to do and how I'm going to cook tonight, because I'm going to cook. Brother Iron Physique, how you doing today? Brother Cooper out there on the left coast, always supporting, and I appreciate you being up in here tonight. I know this isn't one of the national discussions that we have, or we're not speaking specifically about reparative justice, but I appreciate the support, and you know I'm going to bring it as I always do. So appreciate a few people already crawled in the room. Appreciate that. Got a like already in the system. Get a couple more likes. We just need those algorithms to start building. Whatever network you're in, because we're probably not in the same direct network. I needed to go through your network, and that's how we do it, by liking the videos and letting people know what you're doing. So that will let them know what I'm doing. But I am definitely going to put into perspective why I don't believe this person is qualified to be sheriff, and talk on some other points going forward of really why I don't even believe he should be employed by the County right now. But first things first, we're about 10 minutes in right now. Hopefully all the shares have been sent out by the folks that were doing them tonight. Hopefully Freeze coming in. I'm not really sure exactly. I've got a couple texts here. Hold on one quick second. So I'm going to, like I said, do a little bit of house cleaning here. While a couple people climb into the room, it's a late stream, probably based on some of the things that I'm going to say. And I'm probably going to use some profanity more so than what I use. Because sometimes when I just think about this individual, I cuss. I ain't gonna lie. When I think about him specifically, a lot of times I cuss. He is one of those individuals who doesn't so much get me outside of myself, but what he does is when I see that you are fraudulent, I'm literally going to say something that's probably going to be out of pocket. And I've said some personal things about this individual, and I'm going to obviously say some personal things about him tonight, but they're going to be all in the context of the message as to why I don't believe he should be sheriff. So it's you, it's me, and it's this talking head named Derrick Jackson tonight. Now, let me get this housekeeping thing out of the way. Y'all know me, and y'all know when it's time to go. I always tell people that it's time to go. And this is one of my favorite groups of all time. I'm gonna be light right now because we about to get heavy. I love these cats. Listen to them growing up. And unfortunately, a couple of the brothers have, went on to bigger and better things in that universal kingdom. And they're down to 3 members. They chose not to bring in 2 more members to keep it a 5-member group, and where I knew it as to be a 5-member group, they had 5-part harmony. Now they are only 3-member group. I don't know how they pulling it off, even though we really know the main voices of the group are Walter and Scotty. But they lost individuals. Excuse me one second. I got chimes going off. It's so funny. My phone be dry. It'd be dry. And then all of a sudden, and it ain't even for me. I'm in too many damn groups. But I need to get out some of these groups. I don't know what you're talking about, but I got to keep moving here. So I don't like when groups hold on too long, but if they still got it, and from what I hear, Walter and Scotty's voices are still pretty strong, but they're 80 now, and they're starting to look their age. At 80 years old, I would hope these brothers get some relaxation in their life and slow down just a tad bit and live out the rest of these days beautifully. I don't think they're touring just as hard as they were, but they are starting to show their age. I mean, just in August, they were taking the pictures, and I don't know if these pictures are hair pieces or if they're actually performing sans the nice guy fro. I mean, because they had the nice guy fro for years. They had some of the, back in the day, they had some of those asymmetrical fros. They had different kind of fro. And then they kind of went to that high top style. And now where they are now, they're showing their age. But they still got them black porn stashes. They still got them black porn stashes. They not letting them gray. And you can see that they're gray, and you can see they got a little facial hair, you know, creeping in there. And that facial hair is great, but them mustaches is staying black. Them mustaches is staying black. So they keeping with the brand. Everybody knows them for those mustaches and those voices. I don't think anybody will ever get used to them not having hair, but it is what it is. I'd love to know if they are putting on hair pieces, though, because that would add even more to the dynamic of me saying that they need to sit down. I don't think you need to be wearing hair pieces to maintain your youth out here. And I don't know which one's which, to be honest with you, especially at this age. I actually could kind of tell them apart back in the day, but I don't know which one's which. Appreciate it, Free. Looks like you're on Facebook. I don't know why you're there, but you're there. One of them came over to somebody's house before the other one got dressed, because that's clearly a pajama top on the left. So I don't know if it was Walter that came over to Scotty's house or if it was Scotty that came over to Walter's house, but somebody's up and at him, and the other one is still in his pajamas. But they're 80, so they deserve to do this, and I appreciate that. You know, and as long as they keep sounding good, it don't matter. We don't really care what they look like when they're at home. We care that they look like this when they're performing. So they've made it to 80. More power to them. Keep it going. And it'll be a sad day when one of them passes on. You know, it's a sad day when anybody passes on, but I don't see them passing on together. But my problem is I don't see them living without one another. So it's just going to be a really sad time when one passes without the other. But now that I've made everybody think about, you know, mortality, let's get right into where we are. This individual here, he works for Washtenaw County. I believe, like I said, his official title is Community Engagement Officer. And there's no need for us to pick around it. You know, let me go ahead and, yes, sir. Walter and Scotty. I'm telling you, man, they were a really dynamic group back in the day. As a 5-person group, they were really dynamic. And I think they still probably perform really well, but nobody talks about them the way they used to talk about them because they're an old school group. And, you know, the shows that they're putting on now are smaller venues, more intimate venues, and true fans are going to see them now. People that have probably seen them multiple times, keeping them going. So I appreciate them just being who they are. So, like I said, we're not going to stress as to who Derrick Jackson is. What we're going to do right now is we're going to go right to his work experience, his work history, because his work history tells us truthfully who he is. Now, right now, like I said, he is the Director of Community Engagement. Okay? He is the Director of Community Engagement. And then we can go all the way down to where he got into the workforce out of college. Year 2000 to 2004, he became a community outreach coordinator. A community outreach coordinator at the Ozone House. You know, people know about the Ozone House. You're dealing with youth, runaways, castaways, abused kids, all types of people. And he was a young social worker at this time. And he was put in the midst of a lot of youth around Washtenaw County at this time. And then he moved up to a program director from 2004 to 2005. It says he was a community outreach coordinator, But then it says he was a program director almost simultaneously. Somehow, somewhere, I don't believe you hold both of those jobs, but I wasn't there. But I've talked to people who've had community outreach coordinator jobs and people who've had program director jobs, and they're generally not the same task. But we're just going to stick with what he said he did back then. At Ozone, I was the director of street outreach. He always likes to throw the street component into it. He wants to have street credibility. He really wants to be a street guy. He wants to be known as somebody who's really been in the streets, and he has not. Not to say that he doesn't have any credibility, but you lose credibility when you always are trying to overreach into the streets. If you haven't been there, don't try to act like you've been there. So I was the director of street outreach and spent most of my time in the streets working with young people and trying to help them navigate very difficult life challenges. He was helping people get out the streets. We're gonna put a pin in that. You might as well get your pin cushion out, because we're gonna have a whole lot of things to put pins in. Then he went on to work as a deputy clerk for Washtenaw County. Back in 2000, I ran for Ypsilanti Township trustee. I was new to politics, learned a ton, but I don't know why he didn't put the T on his butt, but I think that's what he meant. Hopefully he edits that after somebody tells him about this stream, and he edits that boo, because it's not boo, it should be but wound up losing by 1 vote. There's another lie. There is absolutely another lie. And when you've lied in 2 out of 2 jobs, if somebody's looking at your resume, I'm not sure exactly how you carry on, but oh well, let's keep it going. Second pin in it. During that campaign, I met Lawrence Kesselbaum, who had just been elected as the county clerk. I went on to work for him as the appointed chief deputy clerk. In short, I helped run elections. Okay. I helped run elections for the county, oversaw the administrative functions of his office, and eventually wound up overseeing the Vital Records Division as well. He knows how to put words together. Well, except words like but he knows how to put words together. I mean, except words like but, to make him sound better than what he is, to make him sound like he did more than what he did. Now, he played a vital part in the 2008 election when his superior, Jerry Clayton, became sheriff. Now, I'm not saying that he rigged the election, because that would probably be a lie. I don't think he rigged the election. I just am just saying he played a important part in that election. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But put a pin in that, because he worked and ran elections for the county. Okay. I learned a ton about government, how it functions, and ultimately grew to love public service at the county level. Now, from 2008, we're going to skip to 2012, because we know what happened truly in 2008, but I don't think they appointed him until 2009. That's where he became an employee for the county and the sheriff's department. But he was a board member from 2012 to 2016 at Dawn Farms. That's a rehab facility. You come across a lot of marginalized people, males, females, downtrodden, vulnerable, looking for a handout, maybe a handout. Some even find spouses in places like this. But let's just keep it moving. He was also a board member at the Corner Health Center. He was a volunteer track coach. And being a board member from 2012 to 2016 at Dawn Farms, from 2012 to 2017, he was a board member at Corner Health Center. Now, this probably has a lot to do with him being a social worker. I don't know if he's still just a limited license or if he did get his master's, but I have not heard about any certifications. And we're going to hear about some certifications in just a moment. He was an adjunct lecturer from 2004 all the way to the present. And we'll see one of his lectures in just a few minutes. He did a lecture for TED Talks, and we're going to be able to pick that apart as well. I teach in the social work department when I can, about once a semester. My favorite is SWRK 200, a class on race, class, and gender. Everybody always likes to play that race card. From 2018 to the present, he's been a board member for the President's Commission on Diversity and Inclusion. Race card. He's been a board member at the YMCA since 2018. Board member at the Washtenaw County Technical Middle College since 2019. He has been a board member of Washtenaws My Brother's Keeper, now known as the organization that Barack Obama started when he was in office. And several people around the country started their own My Brother's Keepers. And from what I've seen, most of them pretty much function the same way. Not well. I don't know how he's only a part-time board member, because if you're a board member, you can be a board member full-time, but it says he's only part-time board member. Maybe he didn't backspace that out. I'm a planning committee member of the Washtenaw County's My Brother's Keeper organization, along with WMBK's staff planning committee members set the direction of WMBK. And so far, I've seen them come up with a rap album. And they feed a few people here and there. And I just saw a session where they had a tailor come in and teach the boys how to tie ties. They've been doing a lot of work in the last 15 years. Suiting and booting, rapping and tapping, and feeding them. Okay? All right? That's where we are. This is just where we are. So we get all the way up to where his current experience sits as the Director of Community Engagement. The Director of Community Engagement. I have one of the most unique and exciting positions around as the Director of CE at the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office. I spend much of my time working to build bridges between the community and deputies. Put a pin in that. Not many police agencies do what we do, and that's something I'm proud to share. You've also been proud to share other things too, Derrick, since you've been an employee of the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department. And even when you weren't with the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, you spread yourself around Washtenaw County oh so nicely. As a social worker now helping to run a police agency, come again. As a social worker now helping to run a police agency, I often merge those two worlds. Now, I just told you he's the Director of Community Engagement. I didn't say nothing about being a sheriff, an undersheriff, a deputy sheriff, but he's a social worker who now runs a police agency. Put another pin in that. I'd love to help EMU create a joint social work criminal justice program. You've been there for almost 15 years and you haven't done that. When would you like to do that? You've had 15 calendars to do it. Why hasn't it started? Just like why hasn't Jerry Clayton started in the marginalized communities, as they like to call the densely populated neighborhoods of Black folks? Why didn't they start a junior police academy, a cadet academy, and have it specifically centered towards young Black kids? I'm not saying cut nobody out, but I kind of am. Since you got a Black sheriff and you got a Black social worker who now runs a police agency, the two are so similar in many ways. I also spend much of my time as the spokesperson for the office. That's what your job is, Negro. That's what you're supposed to do. You shouldn't spend much of your time doing that. You should spend all of your time doing that. That is your duty.
Negroes, do your duty.
At one point, people got excited to see me on the news. These clout chasing motherfuckers have got to go. Who got excited to see you on the news? Your kids? Your wife? Who got excited to see you on the news? Generally, when you're on the news, Derrick, you're talking about somebody being murdered or robbed or raped or assaulted. Who gets excited to see you on the news? Your mama? Your daddy? Could have left that sentence out, bro, and just took one of those T's and put it on that butt that you left off down below. Now they know when they see me, it's likely because something bad has happened in the county. Yeah, someone's got to do it. Yeah, Derrick, and that's your job, buddy. Someone's got to do it. Oh. So I looked at this stuff and I was like, okay, I know there's more to meet the eye than meets the eye here. Okay, I get it. What's that? What's that more? Oh, I don't know where that's at. So going back here, there we go. His education. He went to Eastern Michigan University, got his bachelor's in social work. Then he went to Schoolcraft College in 2012. So in 2012, he went and took a 4-month course, not 4 years, 4 months. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and became certified as a law enforcement officer. Now, this stuff about Homeland Security and law enforcement and firefighting and related protective services, I don't know anything about it. I know he's got a certification to be a law enforcement officer. But I can tell you this, he has touted since he went to that 4-month course that he was the M. Coles Recruit of the Year. M. Coles Recruit of the Year. Okay? Put a pin in that. That's about 5 pins. Okay? His skills, we're not going to go through all this mess. But then he got a master's of social work in 2000. So he went from 93 to 98 at Eastern. Then in 2000, he got his master's degree in social work. And then in 2012, he became M. Coles Recruit of the Year. Please understand, there is absolutely no such award.
Negroes, do your duty.
There is no such award. And since then, he has done his job. He has done his job. Not well, but he's done it enough. And he's got somebody watching his back. And that's why he hasn't gotten terminated for some of the egregious things that he's done while serving as director of community engagement at the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office. Yeah. You like them? You want some?
Buttermilk biscuits. I enjoy it.
I'm talking about a light-skinned dude tonight, John Henry. You might want to stand down on this. Light-skinned dude's going bad tonight. Yeah, it's not going good for the light-skinneds. Okay? Put your shades on. Stand back. Because I'm slinging butter for the biscuits.
Buttermilk biscuits. I enjoy it.
So Derrick, he said he was the M. Coles Recruit of the Year. And I've been looking at him for a while. And, you know, I was like, let me go look at what his stuff says, because I know he's got a bio on the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office webpage. So I wanted to see what that said and see if he touted the M. Coles Recruit of the Year, which I'm trying to tell you, it's a total fallacy. There is no such thing as the M. Coles Recruit of the Year. So, of course, I already had it pulled up because I was prepped tonight. I was prepared. So there's Derrick Jackson with his uniform on because he is a certified law enforcement officer. And let's just go back through his bio. This is very methodical, y'all, but it's going to pick up when it picks up. But I have to walk it down slow because this is going to be the first of many videos that I will probably do on Derrick Jackson over the next several months. But right now, we're just going to lock in where we are right now. Derrick came on with the Sheriff's Office in 2009, and many have come to know him as the social worker that became a police officer. Director Jackson graduated from Eastern Michigan University with a bachelor's in social work in 1998. While receiving his master's in social work from the University of Michigan, Derrick worked with W.J. Maxey Training School, where he had his instruction into the criminal justice system. That wasn't in any of his work experience, but I'm going to let that slide. In 2000, he began his work at Ozone House. That wasn't his work experience. We ain't going to let that one slide. How the ladies over there? Spending the next several years in the trenches working in the streets. Boy, he likes to be in the streets. He's in the trenches. He's in the trenches. See, you got to understand. In 2000, Derrick was 28 years old. Relatively young man, because he's 48 now. I'm sorry, 23. He was 25 years old. Whew. The things I did at 25. The things Derrick did at 25. Oh, yes, Derrick did a lot at 25. He was deep in the trenches, all right. He was working the streets with Washtenaw County's at-risk young people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How's the family, Derrick? Elected office. In 2004, Derrick set his eyes on elected office where he ran for the Ypsilanti Township Board of Trustees. And although he would lose by one vote, That lie is uttered once again. Go look at the votes. He did not lose by 1 vote. You could vote for like 4 of them, and then he was like 5th place. He didn't lose by 1 vote. He lost by a few votes, and he was like 5th or 6th, whatever. Then that experience would not go unnoticed. County Clerk Larry Kessenbaum appointed Derrick as the director of elections for the county of Washtenaw, where he remained until coming to the sheriff's office in 2009. Now, didn't I say he played an important role in the election where Jerry Clayton was elected in 2008 and became the sheriff in 2009? He was the director of the elections for the county. And somehow he was able to segue that right into a job working for the sheriff's office in 2009. Things that make you say, not me. Things to make you say,
Buttermilk biscuits, I enjoy it.
Commitment to community. With a background in direct service, community organizing, and politics. Now he's a politician. Now he's a politician. He lost the Board of Trustees election, was thrown into as the director of elections for the county of Washtenaw, and played a favorable role in the sheriff's election in 2009, which his eventual boss was elected sheriff. Now he's a politician. Okay. He continues his commitment to the community by serving on numerous local boards, committees, and volunteering with several youth programs. Yeah. Okay. So now that we've got his resume out of the way, now that we've got his county bio out of the way, now we're going to get to the good part. We're going to get on to the good part. Derrick has not only been seen by myself, but others around the county to be somewhat less than truthful, let's say. I'm not going to say he's a liar. I mean, I kind of did say he was a liar, but right now I'm not going to say he's a liar. But he has said some of the things that are not factually and fundamentally true. And the work has been done about Derrick long before I came along looking at his light-skinned self. Y'all do realize that I did not color Derrick purple. That is a fathead, okay? Y'all know what a fathead is? That is a fathead. Derrick had his head on a stick for the 4th of July parade. And he had people carrying his head on a stick around Ypsilanti for the 4th of July parade. Now, I put American flags to protect the ignorant. I won't say innocent because I don't know whether they're innocent or guilty of anything, but I will say ignorant because they got to be ignorant if they're carrying around a stick with Derrick's head on it. I don't know who these people are. Don't even care. But the fact that they were carrying around a stick with his head on it made me think. And I was going to do a stream called Talking Heads. And I had one for him, and I had made one for Jerry, and I had made one for Kathy, and I had made one even for Greg Dill. But you know, I'm not going to use the one because I'll probably end up doing the stream about those 3. I'm not going to use the one for Greg Dill. I have a different thought process on Greg Dill. Maybe not now is the time to talk about it, but we'll talk about why I don't feel the same about Greg Dill as I did before, as I do about Jerry Clayton, Derrick Jackson, and Kathy Wyatt. So yeah, he put his head on a stick and people were carrying him around. They were walking up and down the streets of Ypsi with this big 2-foot head on a stick. I mean, I've seen it before. You know, you see fatheads in athletes, entertainers, and all kinds of stuff. But I've never seen a politician have people carrying their own fatheads around at parades. But it is what it is. Anybody that's new into the stream, please hit like. I'd appreciate it. Hit love. I'd appreciate it even more. You can hit a sad face or a shocked face or an angry face. Just let me know you're here. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me what you hit. Just move that algorithm. That's all it's about right now is algorithms. So I want to go to something that is very important to me, because when a person says things, I take them generally at face value. So what I want to do is I want to get into Derrick's conversation with the community when he did a TED Talks. Now, this video is like 9 minutes long. And will I watch the whole video right now? Is it necessary? Probably, maybe, but we're probably going to do it. All right? We're probably going to do it. So I want to just get this set up, because what this is it's an introduction. It's an introduction for many people for Derrick as a law enforcement officer. The title of this TED Talks was called Problem-Oriented Policing, where social work meets law enforcement. And I want Derrick to tell his tell his stories. And then once he tells his tell his stories, then we're going to cook. But I don't think I want to leave him to go 9 full minutes without cutting in. So when I hear something that we need to stop and listen and break it down, I'm going to do so. So I may stop within the first minute or so, could go a couple minutes, could go halfway. I don't know. I've only actually listened to the whole TED Talks like 3 times. And I was paying attention at least once. The other times, I think I was somewhat distracted. So let me put this in here and let this TED Talk cook. So what we're going to do, says share this tab instead. Hopefully that is up on the screen. And then we're going to it's going to add it to the stage. Excuse me. Got to add it to the stage. There we go. My fault. So yeah, now we get back to it. But yeah, let's go ahead and cook on this. And like I said, we'll probably stop when there's a point that we have to revisit or figure out exactly what Derrick was saying. It's important. It is so important to listen to what he had to say.
When you look at the badge, what do you see? Do you see honesty and integrity, or do you see brutality and disdain? And regardless of how you answer that question, whether you're an officer or a resident, the idea that I plan to share with you tonight hopefully gives you a different perspective of what's possible through law enforcement. You see, I'm a social worker that runs a police agency. I'm the director.
That didn't take long. That didn't take long. I don't like lies. And he does not run a police agency. He is a social worker. But to come out and say that he runs a police agency is a flat out lie. You understand me? Brother Trey, how you doing tonight? It's a flat out lie. So seeing that he wanted to get to this point this quickly, I had to stop him that quickly. I said he had some stories to tell. Well, I said he had some lies to tell. And I'm going to let him continue with his stories. And as soon as I find that one is a lie, I'm going to stop him, because that's what my job is here. We're not going to let him lie tonight without any type of repercussions. Let's continue.
Director at the sheriff's office, and oftentimes when I say that, I get a strange look, and people say, well, how'd that happen? And really what I get to do is connect those two every day to create change within individuals, but also change within various neighborhoods within our community. I mean, think about it. As a young social worker, I started out working at Ozone House, working with homeless teenagers. It was not uncommon at all for an officer to find a runaway or pick up a homeless kid off the street, knock on our door and bring them and connect them to services. Or what about the mom who's just been abused and we respond to the domestic violence call? We arrive to find her battered and bruised. And it's not uncommon for us to be the connection to Safe House. Or even a call we get about someone who's loitering downtown. We arrive and find out that that man is homeless. It's frigid outside in the winter, and we sometimes are the first connection to the shelter. So imagine if we use that connection to not only focus on arresting people and solving crimes, but if we also used it to focus on understanding the problem and addressing the root causes.
So him bringing up homelessness is a problem with me, because not 2 miles from the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office, anybody that's watched any of my content for more than 6 months, year, you probably remember me sitting in parking lots doing my videos. And I do some in the mornings, afternoons, and at night. And many of those times when I did do those videos at night, I'd see police officers, deputies, hindering the homeless, people sleeping in cars, homeless encampments. And they were hindering them, knocking on the vehicles' windows, rustling the homeless people just trying to stay warm at night, or just be at peace, not bothering anybody, just trying to get through the night, having to rifle through their things to find their identification. My man's laying on the street and he's trying to sleep it off, basically the night, because he doesn't have anything else. He just wants to get to the next day. Why would you mess with him? He ain't bothering nobody. You've already seen that he's fine, he's healthy, he's just homeless. But I've seen many a times Washtenaw County deputies dealing with these people. So for him to stand here as bold as he is, or was 7 years ago, talking about how they help homeless people get off the street, I'm calling bullshit twice. Bullshit. Bullshit. He was absolutely raised in the WCSO, and his daddy is named Jerry. And we know what kind of daddy Jerry is.
I think there's a fundamental problem with only focusing on the crime. And that is that a crime has to have been committed. Someone has to have been victimized before I take action. Why not understand the root cause of that crime and hopefully prevent it from ever happening again? And so I give you an example. In one of our downtown areas, we had a huge problem with prostitution. We get business owners and family members complaining. We'd put a sting together. We'd make some arrests, focus on the crime. We'd push that problem to the city. The city would get the same complaints. They'd make some arrests. They'd put a sting together, and they'd push it right back to us. Never focusing on the problem, but always focusing on the crime. We pushed it back and forth between one another. Until one day, one officer, she's undercover as a prostitute for one of our stings. She's trained. She has backup. She has her gun, and yet she's fearful. And she asked herself the question, what would make a woman do this? And in asking that one simple question, she went from focusing on arresting someone to trying to understand the actual problem. And so she began to ask the women, where you come from? Why are you here? What do you do? Why do you do what you do? And over the years, what we found is every single one of them was an addict. And us simply arresting them and putting them in jail had nothing to do with solving the real problem. And so this officer, yes, we still do stings to this day. But before anyone ever set foot in the jail, those women go into a room with a group of social workers where they get an assessment. That assessment is turned into a bond recommendation that goes to the judge. The judge uses that to sentence the women. And while they're in jail, they're actually getting services.
So I'm not sure exactly how they solve the problem. If you're still putting prostitutes who you now know to be addicts in jail, how are you solving the problem, Derrick? How would Jerry be solving the problem? How would Washtenaw County be solving the problem? Now, I do have on great confidence that some of these policies that he's talking about have been extinguished. In my personal discussions, in bringing him on the stream when he first was elected, talking to prosecutor Ellie Savitt about sex workers and understanding that there's a reason why women sell their bodies. And much of it, it's not going to happen a lot, y'all. It's not going to happen a lot. But much of it is true about sex workers being addicts. But decriminalizing sex workers, the crime itself of being a sex worker, has been a big campaign for Ellie Savitt. Because if there's a reason a woman's out there and the reason is because she's selling her body to get drugs, that woman needs help, not jail. And where Derrick is saying here, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to rewind it just so I'm clear, he was saying that they were still jailing prostitutes. How are you helping an addict by putting them in jail? Even if you are getting them rehabilitative services. Why the arrest? Why the charge? Why the conviction? Why the record? If you know the main reason that they're there is because they're an addict. Now, let me just skip back to it a little bit. What is this? This is a stream about Derrick Jackson wondering why he wants to be sheriff of my county. That's what this is. Let's go back here.
Recommendation that goes to the judge. The judge foot in the jail. Those women go into a room with a group of social workers where they get an assessment. That assessment is turned into a bond recommendation that goes to the judge. The judge uses that to sentence the women. And while they're in jail, they're actually getting services. That is the difference when you focus on addressing root cause problems versus just on arresting people. One officer, one question, changed the way we deal with prostitution and addiction in our community. Now,
but you still put them in jail, Derrick. They still have a criminal record now, Derrick. It's now going to prevent them from being gainfully employed by certain employers, Derrick. And a prostitute? in a jail, male-dominated law enforcement agency, sheriff, community engagement officer. Sometimes those women might have not stood a chance being in that environment. Message.
When those women get out of jail, they have an opportunity and a choice. They can go back to the neighborhood and do what they were doing before. They're free. Or they can go to the Home of New Vision, which has beds set aside just for the women coming out of our program to focus on and deal with addiction. I'll give you another example, heroin. Heroin in Washtenaw County, just like in many places around the country, has ravaged our community. We as community members became aware of the heroin problem 2 summers ago when we had 12 overdoses in one weekend, 12 ODs in one weekend.
12 overdoses in one weekend. 12 overdoses in one week. And I get it. That's a lot for Washtenaw County, probably. But you know what 12 overdoses? Because if you're looking at the county and if there's bad heroin in the county, that's a bad package. Somebody put some bad product on the street. 12 overdoses. 12. Washtenaw County is 340,000 people in it. So you have 12 overdoses. I don't know how many of those people died. Don't even care at this point. But if you have 12 overdoses, and if they're centrally located in the same areas, even if it's Ann Arbor, Ypsi, or if it's Ann Arbor all the way to Chelsea, or if it's Ypsi Township all the way to Manchester, could come from the same pack. And it could be a bad pack of dope that hit Ann Arbor. So if you had 12 one weekend, what'd you have the next weekend? And then the next weekend. Because if you only had 12, sounds like that was centrally located somewhere. And then they made sure they got that dope off the street. Because I remember when they had a bunch of overdoses. And I remember when my daughter's mother was directly connected to a girl who actually OD'd in Ann Arbor. Oh, yeah. There's been many bad packs around Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti and other surrounding areas for years. And there'll be a little spike in overdoses for the weekend, for the weekdays, or whenever it is. But he's making a point about 12 overdoses over one weekend. And you got to understand, this was 7 years ago. This was 7 years ago that this video was done. So that puts us back in what, 2016? So 2014? Yeah. I remember people dropped like flies, probably longer than he's saying it, but he's saying they had 12 over a weekend. So we're going to let him cook with that. But don't blame it just being, I mean, that doesn't ravage a county. 12 ODs is not ravaging a county. Over a weekend, I get it. But even being, Washtenaw County should definitely be able to handle 12 overdoses and damn near locate who's selling the dope, because they know the area that they're finding where the bodies are dropping. And I didn't have to go to school and get a master's degree in social work and become the M. Coles Recruit of the Year to know that.
Do you know when officers knew we had a problem? Over 4 years ago. So imagine if officers, instead of only focused on arresting people for having heroin or using heroin, if they were also asking the question of, why are we seeing so much heroin in our community?
So Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office didn't know that there was a heroin problem until 2010. That's what we're going back to. Because 2016 was when this was done. 2014 was when he said they had the 12 overdoses, and 4 years prior to that. So 2010, Washtenaw County was totally clueless that there was a heroin problem here. The math ain't mathing, but I'm going to let him cook.
And maybe, just maybe, we in the community could have wrapped ourselves around that problem before it ever became an epidemic. It's also said that in Washtenaw County, we have one of the highest rates of recidivism in the state of Michigan, meaning
here we go.
Someone commits a crime, we arrest them, we put them in jail. They get out, they reoffend, we rearrest, we put them back in jail. The cycle goes on and on and on. Now, some would say it's because officers in Washtenaw County do such a great job at solving crime and putting people in jail, but we would actually say why.
Shit, you don't.
How is it possible for someone to come into our jail 11 times? Not prison, but jail. If you've been in our jail 11 times, you're not a violent offender, or you would have already been gone to prison. So why are you here?
That's a lie too. Not all violent offenders go to prison. There's plenty of non-violent offenders that are in prison. You don't have to be a violent offender to go to prison. And just because you keep coming back to the county jail, maybe the laws, there's a problem with the laws. Maybe you got somebody who's trying to keep a habit. See, there's so many different things that he skipped over and skipped around and missed here. Somebody came to your jail 11 times. Why? And why are they only coming to Washtenaw County 11 times? I have more than a theory there. They used to call it the Hogback Hilton. And they didn't call it the Hogback Hilton for nothing. I've heard Hogback Hilton, Hogback Holiday Inn, Hogback Hampton. Something with the H, I guess. They should call it Hogback Him Again, Hogback Her Again. They should call it Otis's Spot. Remember Otis on Andy Griffith? He would just come to jail and let himself out. He just reach out to jail and get the key and let himself out. That's pretty much what was happening. People coming back to WCSO like Norm on Cheers. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, okay. That's what was popping off. He don't want to talk about that. Talk about the real part of it. Because there's money in jailing folks. There's absolutely money in jailing folks. And all the systems and programs that connect Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office, there's money there as well. There's a reason why you have people coming back. There's an absolute reason. He might be a rookie, but he ain't stupid.
Is it because you have mental health challenges, or you struggle with substance abuse, or you're homeless, or you struggle around educational issues, or maybe it's employment? And so one way that we actually decided to deal with this was to hire people coming out of jail and prison to work at the sheriff's office. Yes, we hire felons at the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office. I can't believe it myself sometimes.
How can you not believe it yourself, Derrick? I know this was 7 years ago, and you've done it many times over. And that's where you brought in several people, and you've now created groups like the Supreme Felons. He's not going to talk about that here tonight. And I'm not going to talk anymore about the Supreme Felons here tonight, because we're going to talk about that on other videos. I already told you it's just the beginning. But you're seeing what I'm seeing is he's laying the groundwork to show you how the Supreme Felons came about. This was 7 years ago. 7 years ago. And if you do your documentation, the Supreme Felons weren't in existence 7 years ago.
But we don't hire them to sweep our floors. We don't hire them to be informants, to work with detectives. We hire them to be the
Yes, you do. But go ahead.
experts on the communities that they come from, to be street outreach workers, to use their trust, their street credibility, and their relationships to help build up the neighborhoods that they once tore down. And so there's Julia, who at 64 years old has never had a real job. Her first actual paycheck was with us at the sheriff's office. And after years of living on the streets, of prostitution, and of addiction, she came and she said, Derrick, I have two goals. I want to reconnect with my kids, and one day I want to own my own home. Two ideas that I thought sounded far-fetched at the time. But thanks to Habitat for Humanity, next month, Julia moves into her own house. We didn't give her that. She earned that. We simply connected her to her community. She began to change herself, and now she works every single day to change her neighborhood. That is the power and the difference of focusing on arresting people and understanding the actual problem.
So, a success story is nothing to shun. So I commend Julia for the work that she put in to get off her knees, to stand up, to reconnect with her kids, and to become a homeowner. I absolutely applaud that. How much Derrick Jackson had to do with that, I don't know, and I don't even care. But what I do care about is now, over the last 15 years, I haven't heard any other story like Julia's. And I would like to hear multiple stories like that a year. Because I believe that there are people out here who have probably deserved that same type of access that Julia got. But did they get it? Did they get the opportunity? Were they afforded those same resources? Julia didn't get lost in the sauce, but how many people did? How many people were left behind? How many people were lost? Because there's still people going back and forth to the jail to this day. That's why they're still talking recidivism. That's why there's still a high reentry rate. That's why they still hire and employ and put felons into play. It's a revolving door that they're not interested in shutting, in stopping, and extinguishing, because they don't talk about the right things, because that would make their moves obsolete. The Democratic moves. The Democratic Party is built on people being downtrodden, being at need, always looking for a handout of some type. And if you're an addict and a criminal and someone who is in constant need of assistance, you're right up the alley of the Democratic Party, especially the Washtenaw County Democratic Party.
And then there's Ashton, who at 14 years old from Ann Arbor became addicted to heroin. And she was addicted for years, and now she's been clean for years. We didn't give her that, she earned it. But now she works with us to go back into the community to help those young people she used to get high with, to pull them into recovery. And then there's James, our very first outreach worker years ago. We sent him to prison for 15 years. He went to San Quentin Federal Penitentiary, no less. And now he works for us. He actually works to build up those communities that he once terrorized.
So he was in Washtenaw County and they couldn't find a prison from here to San Quentin? San Quentin. I heard that correct, right? San Quentin? Let's go back a little bit.
He went to San Quentin Federal Penitentiary, no less.
Okay.
We sent him to prison for 15 years. He went to San Quentin Federal Penitentiary.
Why would he go all the way to San Quentin? I don't know who this James is. And once again, I don't care. But if you're in Washtenaw County, why would you be sent to San Quentin? You know how many prisons there are between here and San Quentin? So either this is a flat out lie, or that everybody was booked up the week James was sentenced. For 15 years, nobody had a box for 15 years. They called around and said, "Hey man, who's got opens? You got any vacancies? I got a 15 piece right here." No, he's got to go all the way out to San Quentin. Really? Okay. The lies, the lies, the lies, the lies.
Century, no less. And now he works for us. He actually works to build up those communities that he once terrorized. He literally works to pull kids out of the gang life that once he recruited them into. I say again, that is the power of focusing on solving problems and not just on arresting people. And the day that I saw the undersheriff and James sitting in the undersheriff's office, eating lunch together, talking about how to change a particular neighborhood, I realized that we had connected people in ways they had never been connected before. That we had begun to change our community in ways that we had never thought about changing before. And so I asked you again, whether you're an officer that wears the badge or a resident that fears the badge, when you see it, what do you think? Because I think about possibility, to connect people, to create change within themselves, but also within our community.
You know, I listened and I learned, because like I said, I didn't really listen all the way through it, all 3 times that I had it playing, but I got the gist of it, because the quote, I really only needed the first 40 seconds of it, because that's where I got the original quote about him saying he runs a police agency. That's what I was talking about. But I wanted him to be able to talk on what he does as a social worker. As he says, he runs a police agency, which is a lie. He is a community engagement officer. You heard it in his resume. People used to get excited when they'd see him on TV until they realized that every time he's going to be on TV, it's generally going to be about something bad happening. So where's the excitement in that? Did you say they're free? I'm going to ask that same question. Feds do send you all over. They ain't the feds, nigga. They ain't the feds. I mean, and you know, I'd like to see the logs. I'd love to see the logs to see who gets sent from Washtenaw County who gets sent to Washtenaw County, from Washtenaw County to San Quentin. It's in California. And that's a federal prison, he said he sent him to. San Quentin is a state prison. San Quentin is a state prison. I was actually lost in the sauce and literally just got a text. Because I didn't think that San Quentin was a federal prison, because I've heard about too many people going to San Quentin. But he said he sent him to federal prison. Federal prison. Federal prison. San Quentin's not a federal prison. It's a state prison. And you trying to tell me that somebody couldn't have picked up a 15 piece between here and San Quentin? Oh, you think? You think? I told you. Y'all needed your pin cushions tonight, because we gonna cook. And we got to put a lot of pins and a lot of things. And I appreciate the individual that just texted me that. San Quentin ain't no federal prison. And I just get too caught up in the dialogue. I wasn't even thinking about it. It's a state prison. Okay. Y'all think I'm being hard on them, the ones that I know that's going to check this out, and you listening? You think I'm being hard on them. But there's a reason why we're here. There's an absolute reason why we're here. I wouldn't have got here had it not been for the lies and the deceit and the transgressive behavior and the all-out debauchery, the womanizing, the abuse of power. And now I just don't care. I don't want somebody like this being the top cop in my county, although I know the prosecutors are the top cops. But they don't carry badges and guns. When you think of a prosecutor, you think of corporate policing. When you think of the sheriff, you think of law enforcement. And I know that the prosecutor and the chief assistant prosecutor have both endorsed Derrick. Doesn't bother me one bit. Do I think any less of them? Nope, because I already know what's at play. We're not talking about Ellie or Victoria tonight. We're talking about Derrick. Derrick Jackson. So, in the midst of just looking at some things, I've grown fond of a certain editorial because the editorial brings out a lot of truths, mainly because they're FOIA'd. These people walk into the buzzsaw of Pat Lesko and the Ann Arbor Independent willfully, voluntarily, ignorantly, stupidly, and Derrick is no different. Derrick is absolutely no different. When I think about what Derrick has done out here, when I think about it, I think of the buzzsaw that he has put himself underneath so many times of the Ann Arbor Independent. This is no different. This situation came about because they've chosen to use millage money to help Derrick with his campaign. Derrick's running for sheriff. We know that. And Derrick is on the board of the Washtenaw County Community Mental Health. But on this billboard, it says, "Thank you, Washtenaw County, for breaking the cycle, 24/7 mental health or substance abuse support, 734-544-3050. Derrick Jackson, Director of Community Engagement, Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office. Why isn't Derrick Jackson's name Derrick Jackson, board member of Washtenaw County Community Mental Health there? Why did he put Derrick Jackson, Director of Community Engagement of Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office? Because he's running for sheriff. He's not running to be on the board of the community health. He's already there. I believe he's on the executive board, if I'm not mistaken. So back in May, this came out. Expenditure of mental health millage money to fund sheriff candidates run for office must end. Over the past months, I've received photos, not me, Pat Lesko, of Derrick Jackson's face plastered on the side of Ann Arbor buses and Jackson's face plastered on billboards along I-94. Ads paid for with the mental health millage money and funds from the budget of the Community Mental Health Department. Michigan campaign finance laws are clear. Candidates for office who work for government cannot use public resources to campaign. To do so is the definition of public corruption. And I believe it's somewhere about, I don't know, $400,000 that was spent. From what I know, no phone calls to donors from the office or campaign calls from cell phones paid for with public money. No using a car paid with public money to drive to and from campaign events. No sending campaign emails with a work email address. However, under the ethically suspect administrations of Washtenaw County Administrator Greg Dill and Sheriff Jerry Clayton, campaign finance laws have been repeatedly and flagrantly violated to benefit a county employee running for office. Who is that county employee? That county employee is Derrick Jackson. Public records obtained by the Ann Arbor Independent show that Washtenaw County officials have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for Washtenaw County's mental health millage and funds from the budget of the county's community mental health department, including, among other expenditures, to benefit Derrick Jackson in his bid to be elected sheriff in 2024. The expenditure of public money to benefit Jackson and his campaign for public office is brazenly dishonest. Jackson's participation in the scam to use public funds to brand his candidacy, is billboard-sized evidence that he lacks judgment and scruples. Now, did we really need him to be posted on a billboard or a school bus to say that he lacks judgment and scruples? I called 5 lies that I could actually prove before we got to this. And there were some that I just let slide by because I didn't know how many more pins y'all had to put a pin in it. This might come as a surprise to some. However, even a cursory comparison of Jackson's public claims with available public records shows his self-serving, dishonest participation in the use of public money for his own political benefit should not come as a surprise to anyone. Ken McGee is running for sheriff. He noticed the billboards featuring Derrick Jackson. McGee contacted Community Mental Health to ask about the expenditures. McGee also asked for information about any other campaign materials that Community Mental Health money was used to buy. The inquiry was met with stonewalling. Stonewalled. I haven't talked to Ken about how he was stonewalled. Y'all know I personally know Ken, and I actually support him for running for sheriff. But I didn't realize that he had been stonewalled. You know what that means? You know what that means when you're stonewalled? You are turned away. And when you are turned away, you're generally turned away because there's something to hide. And if they got something to hide, I want to know what it is. The A2ND used public records requests to obtain the information withheld from McGee. I guess I'm about to find out. The billboard below was paid for with public money. The composition of the billboard is worth a close look. The headshot of Jackson. What does he have to do with the cycle? His job is community engagement, establishing connections between the police personnel and the public. The billboard, it's a campaign ad for a county employee running for sheriff, a branding opportunity on the public dime. One community activist who saw the billboard quipped, "Derrick Jackson has impacted the spin cycle." Yeah. You know what happens when everything gets to one side of the washing machine and the spin cycle just go ka-kunk, 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 ka-kunk. Yeah. That's what's happening now. That ka-kunk, 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 ka-kunk has started. And that ka-kunk, 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 ka-kunk has made someone pull the lid off of the washer and say, what's going on? Well, according to public records, mental health millage money and funds from the budget of the Community Mental Health Department have paid for multiple ads. Ka-kunk, 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 ka-kunk. The county's contract calls them vignettes. I've always loved that word, vignettes. Featuring Derrick Jackson on and in AAATA buses and to purchase billboard ads along local highways that, like the one above, that one right there, feature Derrick Jackson. This corrupt practice must stop, and the misuse of public funds also needs to be investigated. Woo! You keep lying when you ought to be truthing, said Nancy Sinatra. We're not going to play the video because I don't need the copyright strike. These Boots Are Made for Walking was Nancy Sinatra's one big hit. How you going to be a one-hit wonder and be Frank Sinatra's daughter? But anyway, we'll talk about that another day. In her song, she sings the line, "You keep lying when you ought to be truthin'." I don't know why I had to go into harmony with it, because I guess that's just me. It's a good advice from a 60s diva to a 21st century diva, Derrick Jackson. I missed that part the first time I read this. I get it now. Worse than Jackson's ethical lapse, thanks to his participation in the county paid ad campaign featuring his photo, name, and cursory fact check of his professional background, shows Derrick Jackson makes professional fibber U.S. Rep George Santos look like honest Abe Lincoln. Wow. For starters, in a TED Talk, we just listened to the TED Talk, Derrick Jackson identified himself to the audience as a social worker who runs a police agency. He sure did. I was here when he said it. I was right here. I don't know who else heard it, but I heard it. In the same public talk, Jackson went on to claim with a straight face, "I'm the director at the sheriff's office." He's the community engagement officer. He might be the director of community engagement, but you don't just shave off the rest of your title and say, "I'm the director of the sheriff's office." Derrick Jackson does not run a police agency. The county sheriff runs a police agency, and Jackson works for Sheriff Clayton as Clayton's spokesperson. Period. On his LinkedIn profile, which we took a gander at earlier as well, Jackson claims a 2012 Schoolcraft college course led him to being a certified law enforcement officer. That's when he got his cred. He got his cred as a law enforcement officer in 2012 after a 160-day course. No, 120-day course. 4 months, 120 days. That long, grueling course that he took got him some Homeland Security certification, unfounded, law enforcement certification, unfounded, firefighting certification, unfounded, and related protective services, all unfounded. I know he did get some type of certification to say he's an actual police officer. Now, whether he's arrested anybody at this point, I don't know. I don't think Derrick really went out on calls as a deputy. I think he's just got the badge and he keeps his suit in the closet with some plastic over it just in case he's got to put it on one day. But he also stated that he was the M. Coles Recruit of the Year. Remember that. I told you to put a pin in that. And if you didn't put a pin in that back in the day, you don't listen to this. Because I said it right at the beginning of the stream. You put a pin in that. And if you didn't put a pin in it, you do not get to listen to this. Don't listen to this if you didn't put a pin in it like I told you to put a pin in it. You got me? Don't even think about listening to this right here. Don't think about this. Because I told you to put a pin in it. If you didn't put a pin in it, you do not deserve to hear what I'm about to say next. Records show in 2012, Derrick completed a 4-month course at Schoolcraft College that led to a law enforcement certificate, but not certification in any other fields. What'd you say you had them hammer pants on, John Henry? It just made me feel like Hammer. So he went to Schoolcraft College and completed a 4-month course at Schoolcraft College that led to a law enforcement certificate at Schoolcraft College, but not certification in any other fields at Schoolcraft College. And I don't have that drop, so let's go ahead and put something else in. I don't have the hammer drop. So what can I put in place of the hammer drop? Oh, here we go.
Hold up.
We can use that. From this point on to the end of the stream, I can't use we're going to use
Hold up.
So Derrick said that he was a Homeland Security, law enforcement, firefighting, and related protective services certificate holder, but certification was not shown at Schoolcraft College in any of those fields.
Hold up.
So that's all I got to say about that. Schoolcraft College officials could find no evidence that Jackson was M. Cole's Recruit of the Year.
Hold up.
What's that mean? That's where he went to school. Why wouldn't they be able to find that he was the M. Cole's Recruit of the Year?
Hold up.
You know, if you don't know what M. Cole's is, I'm about to tell you. Or you can read it along with me. The Michigan Commission of Law Enforcement Standards. MCOLS is the agency in Michigan that oversees training programs such as the one offered by Schoolcraft College. Jackson claimed to have been MCOLS Recruit of the Year.
Hold up.
So now he says Jackson's claim to have been the MCOLS Recruit of the Year is akin to a Washtenaw Community College student claiming to have been the Higher Learning Commission of NCA Recruit of the Year. Hell, it's just the same as me saying that I was the junior college second runner-up to the Heisman Trophy last year. Why? Because it doesn't exist. There is no such thing as the MCOLS Recruit of the Year.
Hold up.
Washtenaw County Community College is accredited by the Higher Learning Commission of NCA. On his campaign website, Jackson embellishes this fairy tale and goes from MCOLS Recruit of the Year to, in 2012, Derrick graduated with multiple distinctions from the police academy at Schoolcraft College. Multiple distinctions.
Hold up.
Schoolcraft officials could find no records that Jackson graduated with multiple distinctions from any program at the college.
Hold up.
Why would he lie? Why would he lie? Derrick Jackson has no policing or investigatory experience. His opponents do. Ken McGee has 30 years of leadership in law enforcement and experience. Alicia Dyer has 7 years of experience as a law enforcement officer, including patrolling the Huron River by boat. In his bio, posted to the county website, Derrick writes, Derrick came on with the sheriff's office in 2009, and many have come to know him as the social worker who became a police officer.
Hold up.
Derrick, in his LinkedIn profile, claims as a social worker now helping to run police agency, I often merge those two worlds.
Hold up.
Unlike Alicia Dyer, Jackson has never had a license from the state of Michigan as a social worker. To gain a license, an individual must complete at least 4,000 hours of post-degree supervised social work experience over at least a 2-year period. Dyers has a limited license and does clinical social work under supervision.
Hold up.
Jackson isn't only lying when he ought to be truthing about his professional qualifications. He can't even tell the truth about how many votes he got in an election. He claims in his bio website or county website that in 2004, he set his eyes on elected office where he ran for the Ypsilanti Township Board of Trustees. And although he would only lose by 1 vote.
Hold up.
I said he didn't lose by 1 vote. County voting records show the top candidate in the election got 3,033 votes, and Jackson got 2,424 votes. So from the first place to the place that didn't matter was Derrick Jackson. And he lost by several votes to the person who just got a seat on the board of trustees.
Hold up.
So when you lie and say you only lost by 1 vote, you couldn't even make that a good lie to say, hey, I just missed being elected as a board of trustees, knowing that you got to be the top 4. I was 5 and didn't make it to the top 5. Just say what it is, bro. And I'm using bro loosely. Here's some more reality. The number of unsolved murders in our county has hit an all-time high. Over the past half dozen years, more than 25,000 crimes, including murder, rape, home invasions, and armed robberies and felonious assaults perpetrated throughout Washtenaw County and reported to the Sheriff's Department have gone unsolved. 25,000 unsolved crimes. This has left tens of thousands of victims in Washtenaw County without justice.
Hold up.
Sheriff Clayton has had a significant and, how do you pronounce that? Deleterious impact on community violence over the past half dozen years, longer than that. Between April 1st, the Sheriff's Community Violence Intervention panel discussion in conjunction with the Washtenaw County Dems, and May 1st, the county's Community Violence Intervention Summit within the area policed by the Washtenaw County Sheriff, there were 653 crimes. There were 222 assaults, including with weapons, 14 sex crimes, including criminal sexual conduct with children and rape, 22 burglaries, 1 murder, and 74 larcenies. Now, that's within a month's time of them having CVI summit, CVI dance things. They did all kind of stuff with the CVI peoples. They had CVI marches. They did all kinds of stuff. But they couldn't stop 653 crimes.
Hold up.
On his campaign website, Derrick writes, as a certified law enforcement officer with a background in social work, Derrick knows what it means to be implement restorative justice and rehabilitative services while keeping our communities safe.
Hold up.
A certified public law enforcement officer who participates in a scheme to abuse public funds for his own benefit and who habitually lies to the public is little more than a menace to the community.
Hold up.
I'll say. So where we are is where I thought we'd be. Coming up on an hour and 45 minutes in this space. I know it was slow rolling. I know it was very methodical, very mundane, but I had to get this part out because the next several videos that I do, and they won't all be over the next several streams that I do, but I'm going to duck one in here and duck one in there, and I'll have people on who've had experiences with Derrick Jackson. Oh, yes, because I know Derrick would love to say that everybody loves Derrick. Or he would love to say that the ladies love Derrick. Oh, yeah, he was quite the ladies' man when he was out there in them streets. From what I hear now, he's married and he's got children. And I wish his family well. I don't wish him anything, but I wish his family well. I'm glad his wife is healthy and well, and she's been able to have children and live a fruitful existence. But I wish nothing for Derrick other than exactly what he deserves as a liar, a literal pathological liar. Excuse me. So I'm going to shut this down now because there's really nothing else for me to hold on to with this stream. And I must leave you with, why does this male not man. He's a male. Why does this male want to be sheriff? He wants to be sheriff because he knows that if he's not elected sheriff, the jig is indeed up. He's got to go literally live his life out as a social worker, or maybe he'll try to jump into some other public office. But not having the respect of his colleagues currently, he doesn't fully have the support of the deputies. There's much more of a higher percentage that do not want him to be sheriff than want him to be sheriff. And I know a lot of this county thinks that everybody's riding with him because they rode with Jerry. But there's cracks in his armor. There's lies in his stories. And more is going to come out. Not just from me, but other people who will feel empowered and be brave enough to speak their piece. Because there's people that have stories about Derrick Jackson that need to be brought out and will be brought out properly. Because we're not looking for sensationalism here. We're only looking for the truth. And if anybody's looking for sensationalism and they just want some salacious stories, go somewhere else with that. No, I'm sticking to the truth. I'm sticking to what I always stick with. Because I know who I am. I know what I am. And I don't have to lie on nobody, especially this male. One love.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man. You're a bird. You're afraid of us. You're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.
Negroes, do your duty. Hold up.
Buttermilk biscuits, I enjoy it.
Negroes, do your duty. Negroes, do your duty.